So why do athletes get injured? Online, people make it seem so simple. They take screenshots of athletes in these different positions and say, this is exactly how. Importantly, positions can often tell us about the mechanism, but they don't necessarily tell us why that athlete got injured, right? Relative to their peers or relative to other times they were in that position. Every time an athlete is in a position, an injury position, a mechanistic position, they've probably been in that position many other times. Injuries are very complex. They're very dynamic. There's a lot that goes into it. 6 reasons why athletes get hurt and 6 risk factors that we need to consider. So let's get right into it here. Going through number 1 first, this is arguably the most important one, and this is the cleanest one to understand. Previous injury history. Athletes who have a history of injuries, athletes who have been injured before, have a higher susceptibility to getting injured again. Sometimes it's the exact same injury. Other times it's an injury that's related to the first one, and other times it may be just something totally separate, but yet influenced by their first injury. So that's the first one, previous injury history, and that's probably not a surprise. The next few here are more nuanced, high acute spikes in load. If you ask an athlete to go out and do more than they've been prepared to do, then oftentimes that can lead to injury. So we would call that a high acute spike in load. The next one, related, but on the other end, low chronic exposure to load. So if the athlete hasn't been training and preparing for the demands of the sport or the demands that they're asked to do, there's a chance that they're going to get injured. A good example of this could be if you want to go out and train for a marathon. If you haven't been doing any training and you go out tomorrow and you run 10 miles or 5 miles, there's a good chance you're going to get hurt because that's a high acute spike in load. Alternatively, you have low chronic exposure to running. So that also is a factor that can influence that running. And in that case, you're almost pairing multiple risk factors. And ultimately, what we want to try to do is minimize the number of risk factors that are influencing our training and our athletes. Number 4, inadequate exposure to high intensity. This one is specific to activities or actions. So think the Achilles in jumping, think the hamstrings in sprinting, think the shoulder in throwing, right? We want to make sure that we're exposing these positions and these tasks and these actions to high intensities so that when we go out and ask those tissues to do those things, they've been prepared specifically for those. So inadequate exposure, neuromuscular fatigue. Athletes who get tired, who get fatigued, mechanics begin to break down, typically bad things happen. So neuromuscular fatigue plays a role. This is why sometimes, not always, because athletes certainly can get injured at the beginning of games, but when athletes end up getting injured later in the games, that neuromuscular acute fatigue is certainly playing a role. Number 6, the last one, the simplest one, is age. Older athletes have a higher risk to injury. They've just been they've just been exposed to a ton more wear and tear and breakdown. And although we can do all we can with proper training and recovery and nutrition and sleep and all of the things that we know are important, father time is undefeated and eventually you're gonna run down. We're starting to see this with LeBron James, although perhaps the most incredible durability we've ever seen in an athlete. At year 20 something, we're already seeing that he's not playing back-to-backs and those things, right? So age, eventually, father time is gonna get to you. This isn't exhaustive. There's a ton more we can throw in here, but these are 6 that you gotta appreciate. And it also just begins to paint the picture that injuries are not simple. Hope that helps.